Welcome to Jamar Roberts for Works in Process at the Catskill Mountain Foundation with Chronicle of a Pivot at a Point in Time. I'm Caroline Cronson, producer of Works in Process, the performing arts program at the Guggenheim. We are thrilled to present Jamar Roberts here with the Catskill Mountain Foundation, our host and partner for Jamar's quarantined creative bubble residency. Our objective is always to present a program going behind the scenes of any piece we commission in order to illuminate the creative process. And here we are able to do so on film rather than in front of an audience. We want to thank the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation for making this and our other residencies possible. We could not move forward without their support in helping us to help artists do what makes them artists, which is work, create, and perform. So thank you. Today, we'll open with a solo danced by Patrick Coker. Then you'll get to meet Jamar, the creator and choreographer, who will discuss his program with Duke Dang, Works and Processes General Manager. And the show will culminate in a complete run-through of Chronicle of a Pivot at a Point in Time. So, enjoy!
Hello, my name is Duke Dang, and I'm the General Manager of Works and Process at the Guggenheim, and I'm so delighted to have choreographer Jamar Roberts with us here today. Thank you, Jamar, and of course, thank you, Patrick Coker, who just opened our evening with a solo. Now, before we dive in, we should acknowledge that these are exceptional times. We are in the midst of the pandemic, and during this time, we've been able to create work because of these bubble residencies. And what that really means is artists going into the bubble residency quarantine for 7 days. They're double rapid tested before they enter the bubble. And once they're in the bubble, they get to create. And so, Jamar, how has it been to create inside a bubble residency?
So like you said, it is wonderful because we do get to safely create and be creative and dance inside of the bubble, but it also has a downside that we can't leave the bubble. And for more logistical reasons, like, I don't know, going out to get food or going anywhere, you know, you can't really do that. But overall, I think it's a really focused moment where you really get to focus on the work, you get to focus on each other as artists, both in the studio and in the workplace, and also in the area where you're living, just to kind of like feel a sense of community and have that energy come to the stage.
So in a bubble, you have 24/7 access to the stage, the studio. So what is a normal day like? Are you here 9 to 5 or are you here at 2 a.m.?
I structured a day that starts at 12 noon and ends at around 6. I never really tried to go any later than 6, and I put a 1-hour lunch period in the middle. So we're working the entire time. Yeah.
Great. So right now it's February and we're at the Orpheum Theater at the Catskill Mountain Foundation here in Tannersville, New York. And it's the second bubble residency that Works in Process has opened up for Jamar and the dancers. But last August, we had the first bubble residency for Jamar and the dancers at the Petronio Residency Center. And on that note, Jamar, how was it to create in August compared to February of 2021?
Well, creating in August was warmer, I should say. The Petronio Residency Center is a beautiful place. We were able to really go outside and enjoy the weather, you know, at moments where we needed a rest, where we needed breaks. But creatively, I went into that process not really knowing what I wanted to do, and that was intentional. I was really, you know, we went into that residency shortly after, I would say, the racial uprising, shortly after the death of George Floyd. And so, you know, it was a really heavy moment, but at the same time, I knew that I wanted to use that time to really in a positive way. So I was kind of battling sort of like two different feelings at that time. And now I think I've basically used some of the information that we gathered in that residency and the information that we have here and kind of put them together to create something that sort of embodies all the things I think that I was feeling from that moment up until now. Sometimes literally and sometimes not, but mostly not. I think I just tried to make an abstract work that kind of holds space for everything that I was feeling.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jamar, we're so proud to have you a part of the Works in Process family. First, as an A-Leigh dancer, you've danced at Works in Process many times, and then you came to Works in Process as a choreographer through Brandon Sterling Baker and the Choreography of Light program. And when the pandemic set in, we launched our virtual commissions program, and you created Cooped. Can you talk about Cooped?
Oh. Cooped was a commission that I got from Duke Dang here. Probably 2 months into the pandemic. It was a work that I created that spoke about how COVID-19 was affecting communities of color. It was a virtual piece that I made myself. I choreographed myself, danced myself, and also shot it on my own. It really took on a life of its own afterwards, and I'm really grateful for that. But it was a very tough work, and I think that wasn't the first time I've sort of delved into that type of space. And so with this residency, a sort of fatigue kind of set in, you know, having to create work of that kind of content all the time. I think here I was trying to sort of create a filter in between what's happening in the world and sort of what I need as a person to be able to still feel happy and, you know, enjoying the work, but not feel so overburdened by everything. So,
well, I hope everybody will watch Cooped. It's on the Works in Process YouTube channel. And I do remember reading about how you said you wanted to create beauty in everything that you create. But I ask about Cooped because the composer that you worked with in Cooped, David Watson, is also writing the music for this piece. So if you can just talk about your relationship with David, and then we'll go into a coaching session. Yeah. That would be great.
David Watson's a really good friend of mine I've known for a while. I like to call him a multi-instrumentalist. I think he plays a lot of different things, very experimental. bagpipes is what he used to make the music for Cooped, which created this huge sort of massive wave of sound that I really loved. It surprisingly created a real sense of urgency. And so I commissioned him again, or we commissioned him again for this work. And it's a very similar sound. I gave him a sentence to work with. Let me see if I can remember. It goes, the rock, the rubble, and the impossibly slow upheaval. So when you listen to the music, you can kind of hear these sort of crunching, sort of crinkling, sort of rubble types of sounds. And what I was thinking of at that time was the amount of time that it's taken us, or taken this country to come to this type of like reckoning. It feels like very slow to me. So the music kind of has this weight to it that kind of helps give the overall mood of what the piece is about, but I also tried to make dance steps that were in total opposition to that mood. And if I felt like I wanted to lean into that, I would use these very, I would call them kind of basic, forms, and distort them, take them apart, reproduce them, just to try and like figure out a way, okay, how can I get something more emotive out of something that feels very didactic.
Great. So let's see some of your coaching.
So I'm going to bring out some dancers. I see Courtney Spears here. Let's start with Courtney first. So I created this, the piece is basically built off of, I would say, 10 phrases. This is one phrase that I made. The phrases, they kind of have nothing to do with one or the other. I think that, in a sense, they're very, let's say robotic even. So Courtney, show us this one phrase here. Nice. Very, very simple, very sort of plain and to the point. And so Courtney has a solo in the larger work where I wanted to take that same phrase. If you can just show the beginning one more time, slowly. Out, in, up, down, cross, and circle, up, and. Good. So I wanted to take that same phrase work and try to work it so that it reads as something more emotional rather than just these very basic steps. So Courtney's going to go into her solo. And at the moment, go ahead, Courtney, I'm going to talk while you dance. It's a moment here where she falls to the floor. And what she does in the moment is the same phrase, but she does it without the arms. And then she left the phrase and she goes into the rest of the solo. Continue, Courtney. And thank you. Very good. So that's just one example. There's another example actually of the same phrase. Thank you, Courtney. Let's have Jacqueline and Gray come out. This also has the same phrase. And once again, we're working with vocabulary that feels very academic. And so in this point of the work, I tried to take that same phrase and create texture within the movement. So they start with 2 solos. Go ahead, just go into the solos that kind of overlap one another, which is actually turns into a duet. Right about here, the texture of the duet shifts, and they're performing the same phrase that Courtney did on the floor that was originally done standing. Thank you, ladies. Very nice. Thank you. Okay, and the next, I'm going to go into another phrase. This phrase, come on out, Brandon Woolridge. So this is back at the Petronio residency. Once again, I created a very basic phrase that involved only moving from the waist down. Go ahead, Brandon. Work it out. No arms, just legs. And relax. Good. And these phrases, especially this one that he was just doing, I was calling it body breaking, for example. I was just thinking of taking a movement that felt more melodic and then breaking it down to something that felt a little more staccato. So that was trying to utilize all of the joints from the waist down and also trying to shift directions in ways that felt very disjointed. So Brandon's going to take the same phrase and give it a little bit more of a emotional component. And so I ask him to, okay, keep the legs, but can you just let your torso just kind of hang as if you were tired, as if you were just kind of ragged and have just been ravaged through whatever your experience has been. So Brandon's going to do the same phrase, and he's just going to give it a little bit more life. Go ahead. Let the arms go. Hang back, back. And good. And so that's basically, high five. That's basically the bulk of the movement vocabulary in the work. It kind of goes in and out of these very basic forms and using those same forms to create something that feels more representative of how I feel about these, emotionally, about what's going on right now.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us your creative process.
You're welcome.
How far along are you in creating this commission?
I would say the piece in itself, I guess when you think of the actual score, is completely finished. It's a 26-minute long piece. As you'll see at the end of the work, it kind of there's a shift in tone where emotionally it goes into something a little bit deeper. I would like to explore that space a little bit more, or maybe not. I'm not really sure. I'm still thinking about it, but it's definitely not 100% cooked.
Well, we are committed to this work, this commission, and our plan is to premiere this piece when we all can safely gather. So we're going to close this evening with a works in process showing, and you've been so generous to allow us to show all 26 minutes that you have created so far, but this is not a premiere. Okay. What should we look for?
I think you should look for something, I mean, if you're familiar with my work, something very different that you haven't necessarily seen before. The piece is called A Chronicle of a Pivot of a Point in Time. The pivot being, I think this is a very pivotal moment in all of the world, and it's also a very pivotal moment for me, given that this is my first residency experiences and having to create work in such a small, intimate way outside of the Ailey company. And I think that there's a departure. There's a definite departure stylistically that you'll definitely notice that I don't necessarily know if it's good or bad, but I'm actually grateful that I've been able to have the time to explore, other options and other ways of moving and creating. So.
Well, we'd like to thank the dancers, Patrick Coker, Gray DeVore Stokes, Jacqueline Harris, Courtney Spears, and Brandon Woolridge for being with us. And of course, we'd like to thank Jamar Roberts for sharing his creative process. And again, thank the Andrew W. Mellon Foundation for their generosity in making these bubble residencies possible. And lastly, the Catskill Mountain Foundation for partnering with us. And are we ready?
We're ready. We're ready, dancers?